Learn how to plot custom reward data sets and set up custom axis range using Plotly.js. In this lesson, we want to look at how we can plot plot custom reward data sets and set up custom axis ranges, titles, and grid property using the Plotly.js library. So let's look into our code. I have included the library as a CDN and in my HTML as well. I'm having an empty div that contains an ID and style. And having done that, actually nothing is rendering yet. So let's move into the script tag so that we can actually add code that will help us to be able to map reward data. So let's make an array, call it X array, since we are working with charts. It makes sense to use something like X and Y since chart works deals with X and Y axis for the name. And inside it, let's add a couple of data inside 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, and 150. So with this, let's add what we need on the y-axis as well. The y-axis, so let's add numbers as well. Say 11, 8 again. So let's try and repeat numbers then. 10, 10, 14, 14, and 15. So now that we have this, it's time for us to define our data. And how do we define data? Well, just make a variable, call it data. And inside it, open an empty array and put curly braces inside. Since we want to pass in object, X is going to be our X array, Y is going to be our Y array. You can see I'm using comma, not semicolon, after the information I have inside data, and then pass our mode as markers. So now that we have defined our data, it's now time to define layout as well. In previous examples, when we want to define layouts, we just pass the what is it called? The title that should display on our map. But this time around, we want to add more information on both the X and Y axis before we actually add the title. So let's go ahead and make a layout rule. And inside it, add information on the y-axis. So it's basically going to be an object that will receive this information. So it's going to be a layout object. So let's call x-axis. And these are custom information that you can pass in. So we want a range. And our range, let's say we want a range of 140 and 160. Then after it, add a title. I call it anything, square meters. So let's assume this is the land measurement. Go to y-axis, add y-axis, set a range for it as well. Maybe 5 and 16. Then add title. That is a good one. And finally, add a border title. So now that we have this, it's time for us to now render our charts. Render our charts using Plotly. Just call on Plotly and the new plot constructor and pass in the ID. my plot, data, and finally passing our layout. It is plotly dot new plot. And now you can see that we have this beautiful custom scatter plot that you can use to map real data. So you see price in millions, the square meter. So we're actually getting this data based on range 40 and 150, 5 and 16. So these are the kind of information that are shown on the map. So these are examples visualize a real world data set of houses in square meters compared to their prices in millions. And instead of letting the library automatically guess the grid size, our script explicitly defines custom ranges for both the X and Y axis and labels them clearly, which is what is giving us what we have on the screen. So you can see that our X array and our Y array are what contains our raw and entered data. And Plotly clears them up sequentially. The first house is 50 square meter and costs 7 million. If you look at it, the second one 68 million. The next one also 78 million. So you can see that these data are plotted sequentially, and our mode is what is indicating the kind of visual that should be given onto us. And we also set our range that forces the chart boundaries to start at 40 and end at 160. So if you look at it, so you can see what we have here on the screen. Now, here are a few key takeaways from this lesson. Number one, setting a custom range prevents Plotly from auto-scaling too tightly around your data, thereby giving your data room to breathe, as you can see in this example. Number two, scatter plots make it easy to spot correlation. Looking at this graph, you can easily see a positive trend. As the square meter value goes up, the price in million value climbs along with it. You can see. So you can use this to visualize trend. And lastly, always use the x-axis and y-axis title properties, which is what we have here, so your users know exactly what unit of measurement your data point represents. So you see that we were able to add this inside the layout, the x-axis and another one for y-axis.